Hello everyone, welcome once again to my Techie Tech Place, and I brought this video once again to complete my series of Django and different database connections learning. And sorry for delaying this video once again. And without wasting our time, let's start with the technical discussion. First, we'll try to understand the agenda for this video. And the main agenda for this video is that we are going to learn about Django and Cassandra connections, how we can develop a Django application using a backend database Cassandra database. For this one, what we need to do, we have to install some few of the dependencies with the Django environment, and of course we have to install the Cassandra locally into our system, and then after we'll run the cluster. Since we are working locally and we don't have the network topologies, we don't have here, we are going to execute only one cluster with one node, and then after we'll be connecting this cluster with the SQL SH, where we can execute the queries, and then after we'll connect this Cassandra with the Django system. All this we'll be learning practically here. Okay, now let's go to first installation of this Cassandra locally into our system. What we can do, you can directly go to this Cassandra official website, and from there you can download the respective GA version, and just unzip the GA version and keep it into your some local system, somewhere into your local system, and from there we can execute the commands. To start the Django cluster, Cassandra cluster. For now, I will just show you where I've installed it. Yeah, I've already installed this Apache Cassandra under this document installation and bin. You just need to go into this specific location, and you can see how many commands are provided here by this Cassandra. We have the cassandra.sh, and then after SQL sh.sh. Mainly we'll be using these two things to start the cluster and to make a connection with the SQL Cassandra query language. Yeah, first we'll start the server. I think I am already running locally into my server is already running. To check the server, we can execute this command, and then after, I think server is already running. Suppose if you want to run your server from scratch, then what you need to do, at first I need to kill this one. I will do the killing. I've already stopped the Cassandra cluster here. Now I am going to Cassandra cluster is stopped. I will execute once again, be into the specific location under this bin directive where we have the Cassandra execution file, and then after go to this command. This is the Linux command I am using. You can use if you're working in the Windows environment, you can use the cassandra.bat. Otherwise you can use the Cassandra. In other environment, you need to use this cassandra.sh. I will execute this one. What it will do, it will start the Cassandra cluster here, because Cassandra is mainly developed on this Java A and Java, and internally whenever you install this Cassandra, at the time you first need to install the JDK version of 8, and then after you can proceed installation of this Cassandra locally. Then only this Cassandra runs into your system. Now you can see here the Cassandra cluster is already running with this key space OCM Learning DB. These are the different key spaces are created, and these are the different tokens internally system has created. And what topology we are using? We are using the local host. There is the local host which is running already. This cluster is running with this local host. We don't have, that's why we are calling a single cluster, not a multi-cluster. If it is a cluster with a network topology, in that case it will be running all the clusters will be showing here. You can see here this Apache Cassandra is doesn't matter the version. Cache schema version. This cache version is not running, and they are the default key spaces which are system schema. This is the default key space which Cassandra creates internally. So many, because for each and every key space the connection will happen. Whatever key space exists with this Cassandra cluster, everything will be showing connection, and then after it will be showing this connection as it is, and it will be showing these many tokens are created for each and every key spaces. You can see here the OCM Galaxy key space, and here you can see the system key spaces, and here you can see the last key space which I have already created with my system, is connected with my system, is OCM Learning DB. And under this OCM Learning DB key space, we have these many tables are created by default. Now what I'm going to do, I will connect this Cassandra cluster with the SQL Cassandra query language command prompt. Then what we need to do, I will just open once again one more terminal which I have already opened it. Okay, and just go to this specific location under this Cassandra bin again, and there you will get this SQL sh. Now SQL sh, this is the command line to execute the query. We'll use this sh, and localhost is nothing but just telling the cluster, which cluster we are going to connect. Now I will do it. Now the test cluster is connected, and then after here we can see the database connections. To see first, just I will before that, to go to the Django application, here I will just show you how to see the key spaces, how to see the schemas, and how to describe the tables, what the different tables are created. To do so, what we need to do, I'll execute this command, describe key spaces, to see the how many key spaces are, means schemas are created under this cluster. Look here, these are the different key spaces are created under this cluster. The OCM Learning DB, system auth, system distributed, system schema, DB, OCM Galaxy space, and system traces. These are the by default key spaces are created with this cluster. Okay, now under this I'm going to see how many tables are created under this OCM Learning DB key space. Then what I will do, I will just use similar with you use the command queries for MySQL. Here also we use like use OCM key space. Which key space I'm going to use? I'm going to use this one and describe the tables. Under this key space, these many tables are created already. Tutorial sample, tutorial 1, and example model and tutorial. They are the tables already created, and you can see the columns as well using the select query. Normal, this normal query to see the data. Okay, now what I'm going to do now, all these communication, now till now what we did, we have executed the cluster, and we have made the cluster, we have made the connection with SQL with cluster. Now I'm going to provide a connection this cluster with the Django environment, Django application. Okay, to do so, what we need to do, just go to the Django application. Since you're learning Django, you might be knowing what are the different applications for the Django, how to create the Django applications. Here I have already created one Django application. Sorry. And under this Django application, under the settings, what we need to do, we have to install the apps first. We have to install the dependency for this Cassandra engine. What we need to do, we have to install this Django Cassandra engine using the package manager. Just to use the pip install Django Cassandra engine, just do the installation. Since I have already installed into my system, it is already there, this dependency is already there, you can install using this package manager. Okay, and then after you have to provide the database connection. By default database, whenever you create application using this Django application, that means Django command, it creates the database like this, but I'm going to comment this one. This would not be my default database connection. I'm going to make the Cassandra as a default database connection. Okay, now here what we need to do here, engine we have to provide, and key space name I've already given as OCM learning DB, and this test name is a schema name, and host is nothing but the cluster name, and then of the strategy, simple strategy I'm using. Since I'm using locally, I'm working locally with a single node, single cluster with single node. That's why I've given this configuration. Okay, now what we need to do, as soon as these configurations are done, then I think there might be understanding, you might be having understanding, like, does this default migration work with Cassandra? You may raise and you may execute the Cassandra default migrations, but for your information, I'm telling you the Cassandra default migration doesn't work. To understand you, the default migration, which is nothing but if you provide a database connection with some RDBMS database and some of other NoSQL database like MongoDB, there we can execute the default migration. Under part of this process, what we do, by default system creates some of the authentication tables, users table by default under this respective databases, but that which command do that default migration do. But since default migration doesn't work with Cassandra, we cannot use that default migration command. So what we need to do to create the tables, all these informations we have to execute using the command sync Cassandra. Like whenever you define a model under your Django application and you want to create the table under Cassandra key space, under Cassandra schema, in that case we have to execute the command sync Cassandra. Then what we need to do, what I will do is straightforward. First I will define a schema. I've already created one nested application here under this Django application, and for this one I have defined one schema here. Now I will just change the schema name tutorial OCM learn tutorial OCM. Okay, this is the schema I have created. Now I'll explain to you how, I will show you here how this table is created, how this table is going to be created under this Cassandra key space. Then what we need to do, go to this Django command prompt, Django terminal. Yeah, this is the Django terminal. Under this Django terminal, you have to execute this command, python manage.py sync Cassandra. Once you do it, the system make a connection with this key space OCM learning DB, and internally whatever latest models are modified or updated, those schemas will be syncing. Like here, tutorial OCM is getting synced. Then what it does, once you go to this database query here, database connections, here you can describe tables. You can see here what happens, tutorial OCM is created. This table is created, and under this table you can see they are the tables which we have defined. You can see here models, 4 columns we have defined here: ID, name, created at, and description. ID, created at, description, and name. These are the columns are defined here, which is already created here. Data is still not there. Okay, that's how we can make a, suppose you want to create one more, we can see here, suppose you want to create some more schemas, profile, user, okay. What I will do, I'll go to this Django terminal and we'll execute once again sync Cassandra. Now you can see profile, tutorial, OCM, user, all are syncing here. Now you can see tables, what are different tables are here. Look here, tutorial OCM is already there, profile is created, user is created. All these information is already created. Later we'll see the different data structures for different types of database types and under this Cassandra tutorial. But for now, that's how we have to make a database connection, means database connection with no SQL database connection using this Cassandra with Django application. If you like this video, please subscribe, comment.